Good morning. My name is Kyle Matthews. I'm Executive Director of the Montreal Institute for Genocide and Human Rights Studies. We're here today for this press conference for a call for action. We recognize the crimes committed, the human rights abuses committed by the Russian Federation in Ukraine amounts to genocide. And according to the Genocide Convention, we have a responsibility not just to punish those responsible carrying out these crimes, but also to prevent them recurring. So we're really pleased today to have important voices brought from Canadian civil society, the Canadian Senate, and international think tanks to talk about what is happening and why the mass atrocity crimes in the Ukraine war are unique. And it's not just a normal military conflict, it's one that's has an intention to destroy a group in whole and part. And my organization, we work with parliamentarians across the world. We've launched with the Konrad Adenauer Stiftung, the Global Parliamentary Alliance Against Atrocity Crimes, and all of our members have all conveyed the message of what the gravity of the crimes committed touch on the Genocide Convention. So I'm now going to pass the floor to Senator McPhedran.
Thank you very much, Kyle, and thank you to those who have been doing the crucial research that backs up the parliamentary voice on this very important matter for our entire human race. On April 27th, MP Heather McPherson made a motion to have the Russian Federation acts of genocide confirmed by the House of Commons, and the next morning I made a motion with exactly the same wording, to have our parliament, both houses of our parliament, recognize that the Russian Federation is committing acts of genocide against the Ukrainian people. And both of these motions passed unanimously. I'm very honored to be one of many parliamentarians who have joined the Global Parliamentary Alliance on Atrocity Crimes, and to be here today with experts who are doing the research and keeping it current in order that we never lose sight of the fact that the most heinous crime that we can name against humans is happening every day still in Ukraine. Thank you to members of the media for your concern, and we will look forward to being able to share more facts and evidence as time goes on. But what we have now and what we're presenting to you today is beyond doubt. Thank you. Merci. Miigwech.
Thank you so much, Kyle, and thank you so much, Senator, for arranging this event. My name is Azeem Ibrahim, and I'm a director at the New Lines Institute for Strategy and Policy in Washington, D.C., one of the institutes that commissioned the report on the Russian breaches of the Genocide Convention, along with the Raoul Wallenberg Centre here in Canada. The word genocide is often used very loosely and often used interchangeably with mass murder. But the word genocide has a very precise legal definition, and that definition is presented to us in the 1948 Genocide Convention. And at the heart of this definition is the intent to destroy a group whole or in part. What the New Lines Institute and the Raoul Wallenberg Centre did is to examine in detail the evidence that we have in front of us of what Russian actions in Ukraine. And we have applied this evidence against the Genocide Convention with multiple lawyers looking at this. And the conclusion we came to is that the Russian Federation is in breach of the Genocide Convention, that the Russian Federation bears state responsibility for inciting genocide, and that the pattern of atrocities indicates an intent to destroy Ukraine and the Ukrainian people in whole or in part, which is in breach of Article 3C of the Genocide Convention. The Genocide Convention was designed to prevent and punish genocide. There is a lot of emphasis on the punishment aspect, a lot of emphasis on tribunals, the International Criminal Court, prosecutions, evidential bars, and that's all very important. But much more important than that is the prevention aspect, the duty to prevent when the minimum threshold of serious risk to genocide has been breached. And we believe, along with multiple other experts, that this threshold has been reached and that the serious risk of genocide is posed in Ukraine. Thus, the duty falls upon all international actors, all signatories to the Genocide Convention, all 151 signatories, along with other states, to do everything within their power to stop this spilling over into a full-scale genocide. And that means states coming to their responsibilities and doing everything within their powers to stop this spilling into a full-scale genocide. We have said multiple times over and over again, never again, and every time we say yet again. And this is an opportunity now for the international community, along with states, to stand up and stop this from happening. I will pass it on to my colleague, Yonah Diamond, who is a principal author of our report on the Genocide Convention.
Thank you, everyone. I'm Yonah Diamond, an international human rights lawyer with the Raoul Wallenberg Centre for Human Rights. For nearly 9 months, we've watched Putin's regime nakedly wage a war of aggression, environmental destruction, genocidal violence, as well as threatening the world with nuclear catastrophe and global famines, all while dismantling the international order. Beyond the necessary military assistance, Canada should impose real costs on those Russian officials waging this war of aggression from the comfort of Moscow over 1,000 kilometers from the front lines. First, Canada should continue to sanction all individuals and entities implicated in Russia's war machine. Canada has yet to sanction Alexei Mordashov, who's considered the wealthiest Russian billionaire, despite being sanctioned by the EU and the US. Second, Canada should implement its recent legislation allowing for the confiscation of assets connected to sanctions. Canada became the first country in the world to pass such revolutionary legislation and should follow up and realize the promise of international justice, the most effective and appropriate way to respond to Russia's war of aggression and to impose real costs. Third, Canada should lead efforts to establish a special tribunal for the crime of aggression, both to bring those architects of the war to justice, but also to signal to Putin's allies that isolation awaits everyone associated. Fourth, Canada should strengthen exiled Russian independent media and civil society actors through funding and training, as well as standing in solidarity with those standing up against Putin's war, including Vladimir Kara-Murza, who's risking it all, facing 24 years in prison, simply for calling the war a war. And finally, Canada should lead efforts at the UN to remove Russia from the UN Security Council, a body, the world body, responsible for the maintenance of international peace and security.
Thank you very much. My name is John Packer. I'm a professor of law at the University of Ottawa and director of the Human Rights Research and Education Centre at the University of Ottawa. It's my honor to speak to you today together with my colleagues on this important subject. I wish to emphasize really 3 points. The first is that it falls on us as Canadians as a matter of our values, of applicable principles, and ultimately of effectiveness in the words and deeds that we hold to be important. The values of human dignity and worth are universal and are enshrined in our own Constitution and are a reflection of our society and the commitment of the United Nations as a whole. We value human lives, irrespective of distinctions, either self-identified or ascribed by others. The principles that apply in this case are expressly articulated in the Genocide Convention, and that is above all to prevent that ever again should there be the destruction of a people, of a national, ethnic, religious, or other group in whole or in part, as is right now undertaken in the situation in Ukraine, pursuant to the policies and the efforts of the Russian Federation. And that principles apply to us as a state party of the Genocide Convention, to Canada, to take all necessary steps that are consistent with our capacities and our proximity to this situation to make sure that genocide does not occur, or if it is occurring, to stop it at its earliest possible stage. The question is one of effectiveness. Do our words mean anything in terms of consequent actions? And here, our feeling is that much more can be done. All efforts should be expended by Canada, both vis-a-vis the state of the Russian Federation and those persons who are allied with or close to or are masquerading as private citizens and are in fact agents of the state, whether through ill-gotten gains or through the provision of means or by representing the state in the prosecution of this war of aggression and of the genocide. We believe that Canada should proactively now act together with its allies to take every possible step within its capacities to fulfill its undertakings and to coincide our values with the promise of the Genocide Convention that never again genocide should occur. Thank you very much.
I have no questions in the room or online. If there's anything else you'd like to add.
Just for the record, I think as we've identified, Russia's military action against Ukraine are genocidal in nature. So members of parliament in Canada, senators, civil society must be truthful in that any peace settlement between Russia and Ukraine must first acknowledge that the state itself, Russia, is engaging in genocide, and it's very hard to negotiate peace with that. So that would be my last point for the record.
I'd like to, on behalf of the parliamentarians in Canada, just to also put on the record that the Canadian Parliament with both houses was the first in the world to pass the motion that we did unanimously in both houses, and that motion speaks to the need for Canada investing in the capacity in civil society and in the whole range of human rights defenders to be able to push for negotiated peace and to be constantly engaged in this, and not to let the zeitgeist of war just continue on and on as we're seeing now as we get closer to 300 days.